Okay, it is a Saturday session. Bitcoin is up 0.68%. It did get a close. I just wanted to make a short video and let you know we did get that close below the 200 period moving average. The black line here we broke. Again, I was warning you about breaking this trend line going back to the April and May lows over here, and we broke it. I told you we could get a bounce and then break it or break it immediately. We broke it immediately. And now we have a close below the 200 period moving average. We are getting very oversold. You're going to get a bounce. We're getting that bullish divergence now completing on the 4 hour in the 4 hour time frame. And if we bounce, you want to be watching the broken trend line. This trend line could be back tested, and the 10 period moving average is just above it. The red trend line, which is now dropping below, has dropped below the 50. So again, we could see a rally towards the 10 period moving average that could be at this trend line by the time we reach it. We could see a test of this trend line. You've got a possible bottom here with our bottoming tail. I told you to be watching. Do we get that bottoming tail by the close? I told you with today's session, we could go back and test it, or we could just try to build upon it. But I'm going to be watching. Do we back test this trend line? Now, these lows, these new lows, could be pointing to the next low. You have a possible bullish falling wedge that could be under construction. You know, if we come up here, come back down, you know, or even try to move towards this trend line. I've included the shadows here if we exclude it. Tighten it up a little bit. Again, near this trend line, I'll be watching near the 10 period moving average. But you could be setting up a bullish falling wedge if we try to find support near the 100,000 area. And again, we're very oversold. We'll likely get a bounce. But again, I just want to tell you, we're probably not going to bottom until we test and tag that 50 period, and we'll probably push right below the 50 period moving averages, where often you find a bottom just under that 50 period moving average in the weekly time frame. Now here in the daily time frame, we've got our 200, we closed below it. Our 50, well, it's dropped and then it came back up and it's got a lower high and it diverged. Now look at this, it diverged with Bitcoin. Bitcoin made a higher high. The 50 period made a lower high. Do you see this? That's a 50 period right there. That's not good. Got the 50 period moving average diverging with Bitcoin. So while I expect a bounce, again, I just think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be a bounce, and then I still think we test the 50 period moving average. Getting pretty oversold here on the stochastic. The MACD is in negative territory, so the trend is now down. So again, we'll be watching the next bullish MACD crossover in negative territory. We had a bottoming tail here in the daily time frame. We got to close below the 200. I talked about that happening. We're going to come down here and either get a higher low above the liquidation low and try to bounce, or take it out and try to bounce. But again, I just think it's a bounce for now. I do not think it's a bottom. Our divergence, simple divergence, is completed down here on the MACD. I mark some of these other divergences here. You can see again they've played out. We had a divergence here with the RSI. We didn't get one on the MACD over here. The divergences have been pretty similar with the RSI up here in the 4 hour time frame. So again, going to be watching, do we rally? If we get a bigger rally, watch the 50 and the 200 period moving average, watch the 10 period in the daily, watch the broken trend line in the daily. But again, we're probably going to get a Bitcoin bounce, but it's probably not the bottom. I've used these divergences on the RSI to call the tops and bottoms at support and resistance levels, and it's done a really, really good job of the 4 hour chart. And again, a warning back at the top. I warned you at the top when I was getting warning signs. I was warning you about this divergence. I told you we still might have tried to reach this level, but there was no guarantee that we do. And I had several warning signs on October 6th, 7th, and 8th, and rallying up into towards the trend lines in the weekly time frame. I warned you going into the October 6th high to be watching for a top at that resistance level. Remember, I talked about rallying up 10.5% on Bitcoin, which we rallied just over that. We did with the last government shutdown, and then collapsing by 20%. That's exactly what's happened. We've collapsed now almost 18% or 17%, I believe, and 100,000 is the 20% level. Talking about this back up at the top. The risk is that we have a triple top on Bitcoin here. And again, that we're going to confirm a bear market by dropping below the 50-week moving average. So just wanted to let you know the divergence is done. I still expect a bounce, but I think that's all it's going to be is a bounce. I still support the channel with the link directly below that allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, please let me know that by supporting the channel today. I just ask that you do that rather than having sponsors and sell you a bunch of stuff or send you to an exchange that wants to get you all leveraged up to wipe you out. And that's what they do. I just ask that you partner with me and support the channel. Most YouTube channels get sponsors. Contact me all the time. I turn those offers down. Don't want to sell you anything. But I need to hear from you. Let me know you want this information. You like my charts and indicators. You want me to put out this information rather than go play golf or something. Follow the link below. Anything helps, but just take a moment and support the channel today. I would really appreciate that rather than having to waste your time and try to sell you things or tell you what a great exchange that you need to go to. You're smart enough to pick your own exchange. You're smart enough to know what you want to buy and don't need me to sell you anything. So please support the channel today. Watch the video all the way through and I will show you. I'm getting some bottoming signals like right here. Show you some other ones. I'm getting some bottoming signals. This signal started to appear though, and it got canceled out previously. Here it is again today. So again, we'll be watching to see if some of these bottoming signals start confirming the bullish divergence in the 4-hour time frame. Signals have to be there by the close. A bunch of beautiful topping signals back up at the top. Signals have done a good job in marking a lot of the turning points, but not all my signals are warning of a short-term bottom yet, but a few of them are. Bitcoin is still likely to reach the 50-week moving average here in the weekly time frame. The 50-week moving average, a green line right there. The simple moving average is currently at 701,770. That's the 50-week, 101,770. Right below that, we have a trend line going all the way back to the 2022 low, connecting the 2022 low, the 2023 low, the late 2023 low. This is our log scaling, and it's pointing up to just under the 50-week moving average. That's an important trend line to be watching if we drop below the 50-week moving average. You might bounce at the 50 or just slightly under it or deeper into this trend line. We already have the RSI dropping below 50. Now, again, during the uptrend, when the RSI had bottomed over here, when it topped over here, you had a 50-50 sell signal. The RSI dropped below 50, and eventually we got confirmation with the price of Bitcoin dropping below the 50-period moving average and then confirming it with an open and a close below the 50-week moving average. That confirmed a bear market, and you had a 50-50 sell signal the week before. We dropped below the 50-week moving average, and the RSI was below 50. It pulled up here, but tried to bounce off the 50. It failed. It got rejection. And again, notice that the RSI was in the negative region through the entire bear market, dropping 78%. Coin drops, and the bear markets have been 80%. Left here was 78.5%. The other bear markets have been 86, 84, 93%. Coin drops 80% from where we're at, from our recent high at 126. Bitcoin's going to 125,000. If we have a top, I'm predicting Bitcoin's going to 25,000. Minimum objective target, and probably more. Again, we've had the bear markets 93%, 86%, 84%. So again, go even lower than that. But that's just a minimum objective if we have topped and if we can confirm a bear market. And again, haven't done that yet. I warned you about the sell-off with this divergence back at the top, and I had those topping signals. I warned you about all of this stuff. And again, I've talked about the bullish scenario. If we can clear resistance, you go to the Fibonacci extension levels. I'll try to cover that in the near future and show you those levels. But you get rejection at these trend lines, then the real risk is the 4-year cycle came to a conclusion in October. Clearing these resistance levels would be bullish. Getting rejection at them and dropping and closing below the 50 period and taking out this trend line and confirming a bear market would be bearish. It's as simple as that. Now, Going back to the RSI, again, we were in the negative region. You got a bullish divergence down here that marked a bottom. Very large bullish falling wedge. You got a potential rising wedge now with turning off of the upper boundary, the red trend line right here from these previous highs back in December and January, December of 2024, January 2024. And again, you're forming negative divergence. Now, the RSI moved into the positive region with the breakout here, the back test, and again, remain consistently above 50. The pullbacks to the 50, the dips below 50 mark the bottoms and the tests of the 50 period moving average. RSI dropped below 50, got back above it, and reaffirmed a 50-50 bullish signal, a 50-50 buy signal. 50-50 buy signals over here, the pullbacks to the RSI, where the bottoms were. You got a shot at that being here. That's the bullish scenario. If the RSI is dropping below 50 right now, and if we tag the 50 period or maybe try to tag the trend line and try to bounce, that's the bullish scenario that we can bounce here and then clear resistance. It's getting to be a tall order now as we're seeing some signs in the weekly and the monthly time frame that potentially a top is in with these divergences. Again, I'm trying to be objective. I'm looking at both the bearish case and the bullish case, and I'm telling you what has to happen for the bulls. It's becoming less and less likely. I think that the bulls are going to be able to retake control in the weekly time frame. I think it's becoming more likely that we've topped. But I'm telling you both scenarios. I don't know the future, but I try to remain objective. I try to look at things with an unbiased lens, and that's why I'm presenting it. Now, I can tell you, I tell you what I think. I have the guts to tell you that. I think you got a good shot Bitcoin's topped. And I'm telling you, if we close below the 50-week moving average and then get confirmation, I'm going to get extremely bearish. If you bounce up these levels and you try to clear this level, then again, I'm going to get extremely bullish if we can clear this trend line right here. These highs may be pointing to the next high, which could be our top here in October. I called the Bitcoin top. The day of the top in the daily time frame with the divergences and this divergence back over here, I told you these lows were pointing to the next high, and that was correct. Two, you have now the possibility that these highs are now pointing to the next high, and we've slammed into that trend line a couple of times. You've got Bitcoin slamming into the trend line here. You've got the S&P slamming into the upper channel from the 2020 low. You've got the NASDAQ slamming into back testing the trend line from the 2020 low and forming a broadening formation. NVIDIA slamming into major resistance. You got a really good shot of a top. So I'm telling you, if the bulls are going to retake control, we got to clear these levels of resistance. Otherwise, the risk is you've got a Bitcoin top. You have a Bitcoin top, you got to confirm it with the close below the 50-week moving average like over here. And then, over here, and then open and a close below it the week after that. That will confirm a bear market. So watch the trend line here. Watch, and again, at a potential rising wedge now with these highs over here with this red trend line, with this one right here, the lower boundary. So watch the 50-week. Watch the trend line here. Probably get a bounce. You probably won't bottom until you hit the 50-week, and you'll probably undercut it like you did over here. Like you did over here at these lows right here. You overthrew it over here. Here we were just above it, but you'll probably undercut it. Maybe hit the trend line. If you do, you're breaking 98,000 if you break that trend line, but you're right here at horizontal support. If you hit the 100,000 area, so we'll be watching that level. We'll have to test the trend line. We might do that later, but you're probably going to tag that 50-week moving average currently at 101,000. So far low, our low's been at the 103,000 area. So again, we'll probably see a bounce, but then we'll probably go tag our 50-week moving average. The RSI go into negative territory here as it's doing right now, and we find a bottom here like we've done at these other pullbacks, or do we see the RSI go negative and then remain there? Eventually we get the close, the confirmation close below the 50-week moving average, and then the validation with the open and close below it. And that will trigger, the close below the 50 will trigger the 50-50 sell signal, and then the confirmation, the validation, open and close after our close below the 50-week moving average would confirm a bear market. Just telling you what needs to happen from a bear market, but wanted to talk about these trend lines. I've been showing you this chart in every single video. The MACD, it couldn't turn back up. It's got a little divergence here in the most recent price action. Even though it didn't turn back up, you still have a little divergence there. Price went higher in October. The MACD did not. You got the larger diversions back over here with peaks there in late 2024 and early 2025, January there at the January peak. Our stochastic has rolled back over here in the weekly time frame, and it's just above 50. So again, eventually, if we start breaking the 50 level, like when we confirmed back over here, we started taking out that 50 level, you're going to end up getting a bigger drop. Then eventually we went and back tested the 50-week moving average. Everybody proclaimed after Bitcoin got a 52% haircut, then everybody proclaimed it was over, and it wasn't over, and then the bottom fell out of Bitcoin. So again, the stochastic is a huge red flag here in that it's rolled back over, forming a divergence in the more recent price action at the October high. So you got a divergence there. So again, and this is what was present, back up at the top on the stochastic, you had a divergence in the most recent price action. MACD rolled over, got the divergence, the MACD rolled over, you're above 50, and again, you drop into the negative region below 50, you're going to see a bigger sell-off with Bitcoin, you're going to see more liquidations, and you're going to move into a bear market if we confirm below the 50-week moving average and get your 50-50 sell signal. I call it when the RSI drops below 50 and the Bitcoin price drops below 50, I call it a 50-50 sell signal. So the RSI divergence, the MACD divergence, and then the more recent price action, the MACD divergence. The RSI had the larger divergence, and one more here in the more recent price action. The RSI made a lower high, Bitcoin made a higher high October 6th. So again, you got some real big red flags here in the weekly time frame. More charts, and I'll just wrap this up right here. I still got red bars. Bitcoin got rejection with the rally at the 50% retracement. I got a bunch of warning signs at the top. Here you can see it on the 4-hour chart. We got the liquidation move on the 10th, a couple of days later there. I told you to watch the Fibonacci's. With the rally back up, we stalled at the 50% retracement from the high down to the low, the liquidation low. And then we came down and we broke it, which I told you. Everybody was saying, oh, the bottom's in, the bottom's in. The people that never saw the top, never saw the sell-off coming, they're oblivious. The moon boys are oblivious to what's going on. Listen carefully. We still might test this low before going higher, but the divergence is probably going to give us a bigger bounce. Here we're getting a feeble bounce, at least so far, from the bottoming tail in the 4-hour time frame. Bars start turning back to blue, we can get a bigger bounce. And again, the broken trend line could come into play either immediately or if we start developing a multiple point divergence. But again, I do expect a Bitcoin bounce, getting a little bit of a bounce off the 103,000 area as the divergence is completing in the 4-hour time frame. So again, I expect this is going to be nothing more than a counter trend. I expect multiple point divergences to likely develop. Don't expect a bottom until Bitcoin tags the 50-week moving average. We'll probably get a big bounce off the 50-week moving average, and then we'll be watching to see what happens as the bulls and bears fight it out, or bigger than the bounces we've had so far here and here is what I'm referring to. And again, I've talked in this video about the bounce off the 50-week moving average the last time. Now the bars are still red. I don't have any kind of warning sign over here. I got a warning sign of a bottom. They don't always show up, but often they do. I got the warning signs at the top over here. Got the warning sign here, and we still went a little bit higher. We went sideways before the sell-off happened. So again, nothing here so far. I'll be watching to see what becomes of those divergences, the divergence in the 4-hour time frame. Bitcoin's forming a bullish divergence here with momentum too, but it did not finish the 9 count. We only got up to bar 8. We got a bottoming tail. Again, we might test this bottoming tail, come down and get a higher low, or even try to take it out. But the divergence is completing, so we'll see if it's done yet, and if it is, we could try to go higher. You still might test this low and get a higher low here, stalling right here, right now. Get a bigger rally in the 4-hour time frame. Balance of power's got to go positive. You got to get back above the line. It's got to turn back to green. You got to get momentum in positive territory. I'm making the video because I'm warning you. I'm getting some bottoming signals. That divergence in the 4-hour time frame's done. I expect a Bitcoin bounce. It may not bottom, as I keep saying, until we hit the 50-week moving average and test Bitcoin's average price right here in the daily time frame. But I am getting right here today on Saturday A few more hours in the session, I am getting a bottoming signal, and we got that bottoming tail yesterday closing just under our 200 period. So I do expect that we're going to see a Bitcoin bounce. This signal will not be final until the close on Saturday. It was this signal that I showed you back up at the top. Remember when everybody was saying it's a breakout? The boys duped just like they were back over here. All you got to do is bring up a weekly chart and look at the trend lines. No, we're at major resistance, and that's why I warned you. But the signal here did call the top correctly the day after the peak. I warned you of that there on the 7th, and had several signals there just as we had the bottom over here and at these previous tops over here. So I'm getting another one right now. So again, let me repeat. I believe Bitcoin's going to get a bounce. I don't think it's going to bottom until it's a 50-week moving average. It could carve out a bottom above it, possibly. But my guess is you're likely going to tag that 50-week moving average before Bitcoin bottoms. We'll be watching for clues, but I'm telling you, Bitcoin is oversold, and we're going to get a Bitcoin bounce. That mean that, sell-off's over? No. That mean now we're going to go resume and go make new highs? No. That means Bitcoin's going to get a bounce. What does a bounce mean? A bounce means a bounce. It's become very oversold. Okay, that's what it means. Bitcoin's become very oversold, and Bitcoin's going to rebound as the bulls and bears continue the battle. Just the Western Union boy, I'm just letting you know it's going to get a bounce. I've been warning you in the last couple of videos here that Divergence was under construction, and now we're getting some confirmation that the bounce is likely getting ready to happen. We still may test this low with a higher low or a lower low. Great Scott, did you hear what I just said? A higher low or a lower low? Again, and then we'll see, does the bar confirm by the end of the session? Now, I got one here yesterday. I programmed my own indicators, and I programmed this signal to be more sensitive, so it produces more signals of where pullbacks might be or where tops and bottoms might be, okay? But the signals sometimes get canceled out. I had a topping signal. It ended up being correct. It was warning of a top, but it ended up getting canceled out up here. Now I'm getting a bottoming signal as of yesterday's close. The signal could still be canceled out within the next 2 sessions if we don't get confirmation of it. Or I might get multiple signals like I had over here, multiple signals at the peak or down over here at the bottom. Nailed the bottom, nailed the tops over here. Does a good job, calls the pullbacks, calls the counter trends, does a good job. Getting some warning signs that we may get a bounce. This is one of them. Just letting you know here as that divergence is completing in the 4-hour time frame. Rally back up. Again, you've got the orange line below the purple line. They're pointing down. That's resistance if we rally back up. We still may make it down here to the pink line, which is where we bottomed down over here the last time when I called the very day of the bottom based on the signal here and other places. But look at that, very day of the bottom right there, because I have good indicators. Bitcoin might do what it did before. Over here, we hit the 200 period moving average. You got a bottoming tail. That's what we have right now. First you tagged it, and then you broke it, and you doing the same thing here. You tagged it, and then you broke it here with the close below it. Now, we didn't get the close below it here, but we tagged it twice, and you got to rally back up, went back, and again, eventually, you came back down, below it again, and eventually, again, and this is where the herd lost all hope and where I called the bottom at the April bottom. So again, watch the 200 period, but you're likely moving back towards Bitcoin's average price in the 50-week moving average. Now, I don't have a warning sign here yet either. Again, we may test this bottoming till low. We'll be watching. Bull signals are starting to flash that, hey, maybe we get a bounce with that bullish divergence is forming in the 4-hour time frame. And if we bounce, we can get a big rally, and my signals can still remain bearish, as you can clearly see here. My signals, which are correct, remain bearish. I'm warning you, we're going to get a bottom. Now, I warned you at the top, I was getting topping signals at major resistance. Again, here, I got a bunch of signals the day after we peaked, slamming into resistance, and I told you, again, is very, very likely turn off of that resistance so we could see the scenario that happened back in 2018 with the government shutdown back then, where Bitcoin rallied up 10.5% and dropped 20% before all was said and done. I told you that takes us back to the 100,000 area. That takes us back to the 50-week moving average. Talked about this in great length and detail back up at the top. as we are rising towards the peak in October. I was laughed at and mocked for daring to say that, but yet it played out. But I'm getting warning signs on some of my signals that I should be looking for a short-term bottom and I should be expecting a bounce. The 4-hour chart is suggesting that, and other signals are starting to validate that. Here we have another signal developing here on the Saturday session, again, which is not closed yet, but we've got another potential bottoming signal. Won't be finalized until the session closes. It may go away by the end of the session. So keep that in mind. Great Scott, did you hear what I said? Again, my signals are not confirmed yet until we have the close. We don't have that yet, but again, did a good job in calling the top over here. Bars turned red right after that. Bars are still red. Again, bottom over here. Bars turned back to green. Did a good job. The September low here, the September high here. Back over here at the August peak, the very day of the peak. Back over here just after the July peak. Over here, did a good job. Over here, got a fake signal. No indicator's perfect. You're going to have fake signals. But again, I'm getting a warning sign that, hey, we might get a bounce here. I'm watching these signals carefully. Bitcoin didn't drop 17%. It dropped almost 18% from the high to the low. The signals got it right. Again, here I'm watching. Do I get a signal here? We're trying to rally back up right now at the moment. On Saturday here, 0.68% higher. Got the bottoming tail. Closed under the 200 period moving average. Do we attempt to rebound back up immediately, or is there more work to be done here? Do we test this low, get a higher low, or do we try to take it out and then rebound? We'll be watching. Again, as that divergence is now completing in the 4-hour time frame, if we get a bigger rally out of it, some signals are suggesting that's going to be the case. Nothing here yet, but again, I expect you're probably going to see something here. We've got a beautiful signal there the day after the top, just like over here, just like back over here, just like at some of these bottoms back over here, and over here, the top in September. Beautiful signals. Got a few signals that are warning of a potential bounce here. One will likely show up here in the next couple of days. We'll likely see that happen and get some kind of bounce. Bitcoin's becoming very oversold. It's now dropped nearly 18%. Keep in mind, in the weekly, as I showed you in the last update, with my indicator here, and I create my own indicators, we got the topping signal here, and in the weekly time frame, you have a major topping signal in the weekly time frame. So again, that's telling us either we're getting this bigger pullback or where you got a major top and a reversal's happening. So while I do expect a bounce, that's all it's going to be until proven otherwise. We've broken the trend line here. Again, beautiful topping signal here. Also back up the top, just like these other tops, just like at the bottom here, these other tops back over here. Beautiful signals. I was warning before the liquidation move happened that we were going to likely go down and test the 100,000 level. We've hit 103,000 so far. I told you the low 100,000 area was correct after being told what a dope I was for not buying the breakout. They love to buy the tops and sell the bottoms, and they were very bearish down over here when my signals were calling the bottom, and they get very bullish at these tops. So again, looking at the 78.6 Fibonacci, that's what we hit with our bottoming tail, and I wanted to show you that the Fibonacci is from the low over here at our June low, June 22nd, to our October high on October 6th. You hit the 78.6 Fibonacci of that. I think you're going to end up taking it out, move to Bitcoin's average price. You have longer term Fibonacci's under that. This is just the Fibonacci's of this advance right here. Now, if we zoom out here, look at the bigger Fibonacci retracements, again, from the April low to our October high. Again, look at the Fibonacci's. Well, we're just above our 38.2 Fibonacci here near the 103,000, with the low 103,000. We hit that level just above that level. Horizontal support 98,000. Under the 38.2 is Bitcoin's average price, below Bitcoin's average price, and under the 98,000 areas are 50% retracement here at about 97,000. So again, this is a level you want to be watching if we go lower, and it's near the trend line, near the rising trend line from the 2022 bottom that I'm showing you in this video on the weekly time frame. Below that, we've got our golden pocket. You start taking out the 50% retracement, Bitcoin's average price, the 50-week moving average. You start losing these levels of support. Then again, you're looking at coming down here. And again, if we lose these levels, eventually you're going to come down and take out the April low. And I'm telling you, April low is at 74,000. I call that very day of the bottom. If Bitcoin gets a confirmed bear market, Bitcoin's going to at least 25,000, probably lower. You're going to have a recession. One of the famous perma bulls in crypto asked, why would Bitcoin possibly go down right now? Bitcoin will go down because we're moving towards recession. You're going to see the Fed cut aggressively. The herd believes that's bullish. It's bearish. It's associated with recessions. 2021 was an outlier. That's why you're going to have a lot of people wrecked. Now, again, the 61-point Fibonacci down here at 91,000, 78.6 Fibonacci down at 83,000. You got some people saying, oh, we're going to go down to the 85,000 area and then we're going to bottom. If we lose Bitcoin's average price, if you lose the 50-week moving average, you're not going down to the 85,000 area to bottom. You're in a bear market. You might go down there to bounce and go back up to the 200 period moving average. But again, if you confirm a bear market, Bitcoin's going to at least 25,000. 80% drop from 126,000. So just be aware of some of these larger Fibonacci retracements. Look at my beautiful signals. I mean, they do an outstanding job of calling these tops and bottoms. Even if some signals give us a bounce, maybe we backtest the trend line and we get a bounce, eventually we come down here. Is what we're going to be watching for is does our 50 start turning down, and eventually you end up getting a death cross in the bear market. Now over here, the death cross marked the bottom, which I talked about at the time. I told you sometimes the death cross marks a bottom, but if you move into a bear market, the death cross takes a wrecking ball to Bitcoin. In the bull market, the death crosses often mark bottoms. I've seen that over and over again. I've talked about that at great length and detail. We'll keep you posted. For my next video on Sunday or Monday, I'll be posting one of those days for my next video.